Let's jump right into this explainer. Imagine you've got a drone controller in your hands, right? You're flying a high-res camera straight over the sparkling, open ocean. You point the lens straight down, getting a real-time, live video feed of the deep blue. Looks pretty empty, but today we're going to play detective. We're using hard geological data to look into what is literally the greatest cold case in human history, one that's hiding right beneath those waves.
So, let's kick things off with what I think is the most tantalizing question in archaeology today. What if the literal first chapter of the human story isn't buried under desert sand or hidden in some dense jungle canopy? What if the true origins of our civilization are actually submerged 120 meters underwater, completely out of sight?
Now, picture this. Back in 2001, a research vessel was out off the western coast of Cuba running a live sonar scan. They were just doing a routine mapping job, but their real-time feed showed something that absolutely shouldn't be there. We're talking massive, symmetrical, perpendicular angles spreading across 2 whole square kilometers, sitting 600 meters deep. Staring at these completely unnatural geometric shapes, marine researchers Polina Zaletsky and Paul Weinswag asked a question that kind of shifts the whole paradigm. What if something was there before the water?
Section 1. The Ocean's Hidden Anomalies. Investigating the Deep.
If we pan our global camera around, we start noticing a wild pattern. These highly sophisticated structures popping up way before they're officially supposed to exist. So, besides those Cuban sonar grids, you've got the 11,600-year-old Göbekli Tepe over in Turkey, with its massive 20-ton carved pillars. Then, off the coast of Japan, there's the Yonaguni Monument with these huge underwater terraced formations, and over in the Gulf of Khambat in India, marine surveys pulled up sonar images of geometric structures 40 meters down, literally dredging up organic artifacts carbon dated to 9,500 years ago.
Naturally, you're probably wondering, so what happened with these discoveries? Well, when faced with claims that completely upend the established timeline of human history, the scientific community asked for more evidence, which is totally fair. But here's the catch. Underwater excavation is incredibly difficult. It's dangerous, and it is ridiculously expensive. Without easy access to shoot clear video or dig in the dirt, conventional science just kind of tends to move on. So sadly, these massive mysteries get left sitting on the shelf.
Moving on to Section 2, the Ice Age World Map, a drastically different planet.
Okay, the absolute crucial point we need to understand is this number right here. 20,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum, massive ice sheets locked up so much of the Earth's water that the global sea level was a staggering 120 meters. That's nearly 400 feet lower than it is today. And mapping that out brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the land we lost. If you look at today's map, you see scattered islands and shallow seas. But the Ice Age map? It totally transforms what we now know as archipelagos into massive interconnected subcontinents. We're talking about gigantic, fully exposed landmasses with names like Sundaland, Doggerland, and Sahul.
Let's just focus on Doggerland for a second. Now, this wasn't some frozen wasteland. It was a vast, temperate lowland full of rivers, wetlands, and forests that physically connected Britain to the rest of the European continent. Get this, for over a century, local fishermen dredging the bottom of the North Sea have literally been pulling up woolly mammoth bones and ancient stone tools in their nets. They are literally fishing over a submerged paradise.
Section 3, Sundaland and Drowned Continents. The Lost Tropical Eden.
Sundaland wasn't just a slightly expanded beach, it was this incredibly huge, fertile environment. Imagine a tropical subcontinent that's actually larger than modern India. It physically connected Borneo, Java, Sumatra, and the Malay Peninsula. With its high biodiversity and massive, extensive river networks, it was the absolute perfect setup for early human settlement, right up until it drowned incredibly rapidly between 18,000 and 5,000 BC.
To really put this into perspective, geologist Professor Dr. Danny Hellman Nadawajaja points out exactly what made this region so special. While the northern parts of the globe were completely locked under freezing, hostile ice, this exposed landmass offered a super stable, warm climate. I mean, it was quite literally a paradise during the last ice age, a perfect incubator for our ancestors to flourish.
Section 4. Rewriting the timeline. Advanced doesn't mean metal. When we map out the timeline, it reveals something pretty incredible. Anatomically modern humans emerged around 200,000 years ago. But look at everything that happened way before the traditional start of recorded civilization, which was just 5,000 years ago. Humans were successfully navigating open oceans to colonize the Huls 65,000 years ago, and they were creating brilliant figurative art over 50,000 years ago.
So we really need to redefine what sophistication looks like. These were highly adaptive, incredibly intelligent cultures. But instead of using metal or carving massive stone blocks, they built their worlds using complex, perishable, organic materials. Think wood, advanced cordage, and bamboo. The reason we don't find their ancient cities isn't because they weren't smart. It's because their highly effective technology simply dissolved back into the earth over time.
And if you want hard proof of their cognitive brilliance, just look at the Liang Liang caves in Sulawesi. These gorgeous, incredibly ancient paintings date back at least 51,200 years. They prove our ancestors possessed fully modern capacities for visual storytelling and complex symbolic thought tens of thousands of years before the very first city was ever built.
Now, I want you to really think about this next question, because it completely shatters that old myth of the primitive, grunting caveman. How on earth did human populations over 50,000 years ago manage to cross deep-water, open ocean barriers to colonize the paleocontinent of Sahul, what we now call Australia and New Guinea?
The answer is mind-blowing. They intentionally engineered seaworthy watercraft. Using those highly specialized, perishable technologies we talked about, like massive bamboo rafts, they essentially established the world's first true maritime cultures. They didn't just survive the coastlines, they literally conquered the deep ocean.
Section 5. The origin of flood myths. Geological trauma remembered.
Okay, let's look at how these verified geological realities perfectly dismantle all those esoteric myths of high-tech aliens or magical laser crystals, and ground these legends in actual science. Plato's Atlantis, it aligns perfectly with the rapid drowning of the Sunda Shelf around 11,500 years ago. What about Churchwart's or Lemuria? Physically impossible under modern plate tectonics. And Edgar Cayce's flying machines? Yeah, no traces of that exist. Our ancestors were incredibly adaptive hunter-gatherers, not wizards.
The harsh reality is that the rapid, episodic drowning of these highly fertile continental shelves at the end of the Ice Age compressed human habitats and forced desperate mass upstream migrations. It wasn't science fiction. It was a catastrophic global event that permanently traumatized the human psyche.
And this massive collective trauma was orally passed down for generations. That is exactly why we see these uncannily similar flood myths across countless, completely disparate cultures today. You've got Noah's Ark, Plato's Atlantis, the Epic of Gilgamesh, Kumari Kandam, and even the Garden of Eden, which a lot of researchers now link directly to that lush, drowned paradise of Sunderland.
So, the real truth here is honestly far more fascinating than the sci-fi theories. Our incredibly adaptive ancestors didn't have magical flying ships or anti-gravity tech. They were brilliant, behaviorally modern humans who simply watched their magnificent, biologically rich world get swallowed up by the rising oceans.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If humanity's earliest and arguably most formative chapters were built entirely with perishable materials and are currently sitting in the pitch black 120 meters beneath the waves, what else is out there just waiting in the dark to be discovered?